It began as a hushed conversation behind Kensington Palace walls, one that aides tried to downplay and courtiers quickly silenced. But the look on Catherine, Princess of Wales' face as she exited that private meeting said everything the palace couldn't. Something was wrong. And it involved Charlotte. What was first dismissed as a rumor soon turned into a royal firestorm, now confirmed by the very people who fought to protect it. Before we go deeper into what this really means for the royal family, make sure to subscribe so you don't miss a single update. At first, the whispers seemed no different from the countless rumors that often drift through royal circles. A delayed appearance here, a cancelled engagement there. Small details that normally would have faded into the background. But this time was different. Behind closed doors, concern was growing at a pace few could fully understand. According to royal insiders, a highly unusual meeting had been arranged involving Catherine, Prince William, and a group of trusted medical advisors. The gathering was reportedly organized with extraordinary urgency, catching even some palace staff by surprise. No official explanation was offered. No public schedule reflected its importance. Yet the level of secrecy surrounding the meeting immediately raised questions among those accustomed to the rhythms of royal life. What happened inside that room remains closely guarded, but reports began circulating that discussions centered on a sudden and unexpected health concern involving Princess Charlotte. For years, Charlotte had been viewed as one of the brightest young members of the royal family, carrying herself with a confidence and composure far beyond her age. That was why the rumors felt so alarming. Those familiar with palace operations claimed aides were instructed to avoid discussing the matter entirely. Conversations reportedly stopped when unfamiliar faces entered rooms. Information was restricted to an unusually small circle. Even within royal households, such levels of silence were rare, fueling speculation that something far more serious was unfolding beneath the surface. Then came the moment that intensified every concern. When Catherine emerged from the private meeting, witnesses described a woman trying desperately to maintain her composure while carrying an emotional burden that seemed almost impossible to conceal. The Princess of Wales has long been admired for her calm presence during moments of pressure, yet insiders claim this felt different. The usual confidence appeared replaced by visible strain. Questions multiplied instantly. What had she been told? How serious was the situation? And why had palace officials become so determined to keep the details hidden? As the day continued, another detail quietly emerged. Reports suggested Prince William spent part of the evening privately comforting Charlotte. No announcement was made. No explanation was offered. Yet among royal correspondents, the significance was impossible to ignore. For many observers, it appeared to confirm that concerns inside the family were far greater than the public realized. Meanwhile, journalists who had been monitoring royal schedules for weeks began revisiting earlier events. Missed appearances, unexpected adjustments, and subtle changes that once seemed unrelated suddenly formed a troubling pattern. Several commentators would later admit that they had sensed something was wrong long before any whispers reached the public. They simply could not identify what it was. The deeper reporters looked, the more unsettling the picture became. Behind palace walls, anxiety was growing. Staff members reportedly moved with unusual caution. Senior figures appeared increasingly protective. Every unanswered question seemed to create two more. What began as a quiet rumor was rapidly becoming something much larger, something that threatened to pull back the curtain on a crisis the palace had desperately hoped to contain. Yet as concern focused on Charlotte, an even more shocking possibility was beginning to emerge. One that would transform this story from a private family struggle into a matter touching the very future of the monarchy itself. But the chilling truth wasn't just about Charlotte's health, it was tied to a royal legacy that had long been buried. Until now. For days, officials insisted there was nothing to worry about. Then, without warning, Buckingham Palace released a carefully worded statement that changed everything. The timing stunned even the most experienced royal observers. After weeks of speculation, reassurances, and carefully controlled messaging, the palace finally broke its silence. Yet instead of providing clarity, the announcement seemed to deepen the mystery. The statement acknowledged that Catherine was facing a significant health setback, but beyond that, details were scarce. Every sentence appeared measured. Every word seemed chosen with extraordinary care. And that was precisely what alarmed people. When institutions built on stability become cautious with their language, it often signals that the full story is far more serious than the public is being told. Almost immediately, analysts, commentators, and royal correspondents began dissecting every line. Why was the wording so restrained? Why were there so few specifics? Why did the statement focus so heavily on privacy while offering almost no explanation about what had actually changed? These questions spread rapidly across Britain and beyond. For many supporters of the Princess of Wales, the lack of detail felt unsettling. The palace had spoken, yet somehow the uncertainty felt greater than before. Instead of calming fears, the announcement ignited a new wave of concern that seemed to grow stronger with every passing hour. The situation became even more troubling because of what had happened in the days leading up to the statement. Palace officials had repeatedly signaled that there was no immediate cause for alarm. Public concern had been gently dismissed. Rumors had been treated as speculation. Then suddenly, everything shifted. The contrast was impossible to ignore. One moment there appeared to be stability. The next, Buckingham Palace was acknowledging a major setback involving one of the most important figures in the monarchy. That dramatic change in tone left many wondering what had happened behind closed doors to force such an abrupt public acknowledgement. Among royal watchers, comparisons quickly emerged to previous periods of uncertainty that had shaken the institution. Whenever information becomes limited, speculation rushes in to fill the void. Veteran commentators noted familiar patterns: carefully controlled statements, increased privacy, unanswered questions, growing public anxiety. It all seemed to echo moments from the past when the palace found itself balancing transparency against the need to protect deeply personal matters. But this situation felt uniquely sensitive because Catherine had become such a central figure in the future of the monarchy. Any concern involving her carried consequences that stretched far beyond a single family. Meanwhile, subtle developments behind the scenes only intensified public curiosity. Reports began circulating that Prince William had quietly reduced certain appearances and adjusted portions of his schedule. No dramatic announcement accompanied those changes. No official explanation was offered, yet many interpreted the decision as a sign that his priorities had shifted firmly toward supporting his family during an increasingly difficult period. The future king appeared determined to place those closest to him above everything else, even as public expectations continued to grow. At the same time, sources suggested that senior royals had been privately briefed before the announcement became public. If true, that detail revealed just how significant the situation had become. Preparations appeared to be underway long before ordinary citizens learned anything had changed. Within royal circles, conversations reportedly focused not only on Catherine's immediate condition, but also on how the institution would respond if circumstances became more challenging. Those discussions remained hidden from public view, but their existence hinted at concerns extending far beyond a single statement. As supporters absorbed the news, fear began replacing uncertainty. Across the country, people who had admired Catherine for years found themselves asking difficult questions. What exactly had happened? How serious was the setback? What would come next? With few answers available, emotions filled the gap. Concern became headlines. Headlines became non-stop coverage. International media organizations launched continuous reporting, analyzing every development. Every appearance, every silence. The story was no longer confined to palace walls. It had become a global conversation. Yet amid the flood of coverage and growing speculation, a more unsettling possibility was beginning to emerge. Some insiders quietly suggested that this crisis had not appeared overnight. According to those familiar with recent events, clues may have been present for months, hidden in plain sight while the public focused elsewhere. And if those claims proved true, then the palace statement was not the beginning of the story at all. It was merely the moment when a carefully guarded reality could no longer remain hidden. As concern spread across Britain, insiders revealed that the warning signs may have started much earlier than anyone realized. Looking back, the clues were everywhere. The problem was that nobody knew how serious they truly were. In the aftermath of Buckingham Palace's carefully crafted announcement, attention began shifting away from what had just been revealed and towards something far more unsettling. People started asking a different question. Not what was happening now, but when it had actually begun. As reporters, commentators, and supporters retraced the timeline, a troubling pattern slowly emerged. What once appeared to be isolated moments suddenly looked connected. Small developments that had passed without much discussion now carried an entirely different meaning. The deeper people looked, the harder it became to ignore the possibility that warning signs had been present for far longer than anyone realized. One of the first details to attract renewed attention was Catherine's reduced public presence over recent months. At the time, each absence seemed understandable. Royal schedules often change. Engagements are adjusted. Priorities shift. Yet when viewed together, those changes began to tell a different story. Appearances became less frequent. Certain commitments quietly disappeared. Public expectations were managed carefully, but the overall pattern suggested that something significant was happening behind the scenes. Supporters who had once accepted official explanations without hesitation suddenly found themselves revisiting every announcement, every cancellation, and every unexpected alteration. The same was true of scheduling changes that initially appeared routine. On their own, they seemed ordinary enough. Few people questioned them. After all, members of the royal family regularly balance public duties with private responsibilities. But hindsight has a way of transforming ordinary events into meaningful clues. What once looked like minor adjustments now appeared to form a carefully managed strategy. Some observers began wondering whether palace officials had been working quietly to create flexibility long before the public became aware of any concerns. If so, it would suggest that preparations had started well in advance of the statement that eventually captured global attention. As these questions intensified, certain moments from earlier in the year took on new significance. Remarks that had seemed harmless suddenly felt loaded with meaning. Decisions that attracted little notice at the time were now being scrutinized from every angle. Royal commentators found themselves returning to old reports and forgotten headlines, searching for indications that the story had been unfolding in plain sight. Again and again, they encountered details that seemed impossible to ignore. None provided definitive answers on their own. Yet together, they created a picture that felt increasingly difficult to dismiss. Behind palace walls, reports suggested staff had already begun adapting long before the public understood why. Plans were reportedly adjusted. Priorities were quietly reconsidered. Efforts were made to maintain normal operations while accommodating challenges that remained hidden from view. The remarkable part was how effectively those efforts worked. To most people, life appeared to continue as usual. The institution projected stability. Public reassurances remained consistent. But beneath that calm surface, insiders claimed a very different reality was taking shape. That contrast between public confidence and private concern became one of the most striking aspects of the story. Throughout the period of growing uncertainty, official messaging emphasized reassurance. There was little indication that anything extraordinary was unfolding. Yet as more information emerged, many began to suspect those reassurances had concealed deeper worries. Not necessarily out of deception, but out of a determination to protect both Catherine and her family from overwhelming public scrutiny during an intensely difficult time. At the center of it all stood a family facing pressures few could fully comprehend. According to those close to royal circles, relatives had become increasingly protective as the months progressed. Public appearances were approached with greater caution. Private time became more important. The instinct to shield loved ones from relentless attention appeared stronger than ever. For William especially, the balance between public duty and personal responsibility seemed to grow more complicated with each passing week. The future king was expected to provide stability to the nation while navigating uncertainty within his own household. Perhaps the most unsettling question of all concerned what palace officials actually knew and when they knew it. That question lingered over every discussion, every report, and every new revelation. If warning signs had existed for months, how long had senior figures been aware of the situation? Had they hoped conditions would improve before public concern intensified? Or had they simply been buying time while difficult decisions were made behind closed doors? The answers remained elusive, hidden behind the same walls that had guarded the story from the very beginning. But while the public was only beginning to piece together these fragments of a much larger puzzle, those closest to Catherine were already confronting possibilities they hoped would never become reality. The clues that outsiders were just discovering had been weighing on the hearts of family members for far longer, and the preparations quietly taking place behind palace walls suggested that the challenges ahead might be even greater than anyone outside the royal circle yet understood. And while the public was only beginning to connect the dots, those closest to Catherine were already preparing for a difficult reality. Behind palace gates, William faced a responsibility no future king ever hopes to carry. As questions surrounding Catherine continued to spread across Britain, the focus increasingly shifted toward the man standing beside her through every stage of the crisis. For years, Prince William had been preparing for the enormous responsibilities that come with his future role as king. He had spent decades learning the demands of public service, state duties, and national leadership. Yet none of those preparations could fully equip him for the challenge now unfolding behind closed doors. This was not a constitutional issue. It was not a political challenge. It was deeply personal. At the very moment when the world expected strength from him, he was being asked to balance the weight of the crown with the fears of a husband and father facing uncertainty inside his own family. The pressure was immense. On one side stood the monarchy, an institution that depends upon stability, continuity, and public confidence. On the other stood Catherine and their children, whose lives had suddenly become overshadowed by concerns that few outside their circle could fully understand. Every decision William made carried consequences. Every appearance was scrutinized. Every absence sparked speculation. Yet through it all, he appeared determined to follow a simple priority. Family came first. Those close to royal circles suggested that the emotional strain on the Prince of Wales had been building for months. The public often sees royalty through the lens of ceremony and tradition, but beneath the titles are human beings confronting the same fears and anxieties that affect every family. William was reportedly carrying not only concern for Catherine, but also the burden of protecting those around her from the relentless pressure of public attention. The challenge was not simply managing a crisis. It was managing a crisis while the entire world watched. At home, maintaining a sense of stability became increasingly important. Sources indicated that extraordinary efforts were made to preserve normal routines wherever possible. The goal was simple but critical. Protect the family unit. Create consistency amid uncertainty. Ensure that life continued moving forward even as difficult questions remained unanswered. It was a delicate balancing act, one that required patience, resilience, and a level of emotional discipline few people could imagine sustaining under such circumstances. At the center of those concerns were George, Charlotte, and Louis. As public interest intensified, William reportedly became even more focused on shielding his children from unnecessary pressure. Every parent wants to protect their children from fear. Every parent wants to preserve a sense of security when life becomes unpredictable. For William, that instinct was magnified by the unique reality of royal life. His children were not only facing private family challenges, they were growing up under an extraordinary spotlight that rarely allows personal struggles to remain private for long. Meanwhile, senior aides were quietly adapting to a future that suddenly felt far less certain. Long-term plans were reportedly being reviewed. Schedules were adjusted. Contingencies were considered. None of these actions necessarily signaled panic. Rather, they reflected the reality that the monarchy must continue functioning even during periods of profound personal difficulty. Behind the scenes, preparations were being made for multiple possibilities, while publicly the institution continued projecting calm and continuity. As a result, William's appearances began carrying a different meaning. Every engagement attracted heightened attention. Every public appearance was analyzed not simply for what he said, but for what observers believed it might reveal. People searched for clues in his words, his demeanor, and his decisions. Yet despite mounting pressure, William remained remarkably disciplined. He refused to allow speculation to dictate his actions. Above all else, he appeared committed to protecting Catherine's privacy, even when public curiosity reached extraordinary levels. That determination earned growing admiration from many who followed the unfolding story. In a period dominated by uncertainty, William's calm approach stood out. He neither fueled rumors nor engaged in public drama. Instead, he focused on supporting his family while continuing to fulfill his responsibilities. It was a difficult balance, and one that demanded enormous personal sacrifice. The contrast was striking. Public duty required visibility. Family loyalty required discretion. Somehow, he attempted to honor both. But even as William worked tirelessly to maintain stability, there was one reality he could not completely shield from the outside world. The emotional weight of the crisis was affecting more than just the adults. Behind every official statement, every schedule adjustment, and every carefully managed appearance were three young children navigating a period of uncertainty that no family ever wishes to face. And as the weeks passed, the impact on them became increasingly difficult to overlook. But as William fought to hold everything together, the emotional impact on the children became impossible to ignore. The greatest concern inside the palace was never the headlines. It was the three young children living through the uncertainty behind them. While newspapers debated royal schedules and commentators analyzed every official statement, a far more personal story was unfolding behind closed doors. At the heart of the crisis were three children whose lives had suddenly become touched by uncertainty in ways they could not fully control. For all the attention focused on Catherine and William, those closest to the family understood that the emotional well-being of George, Charlotte, and Louis remained the true priority. The headlines would eventually fade. Public speculation would move on. But the experiences shaping these young lives during this difficult chapter would remain with them long after the cameras and conversations disappeared. For Prince George, the situation reportedly carried a unique weight. As the future heir after his father, he has grown up understanding that duty is not simply a word within the royal family. It is a lifelong responsibility. Yet there is a vast difference between learning about responsibility and confronting it during a family crisis. Those familiar with royal life suggested that George had become increasingly aware of the seriousness of events unfolding around him. While still young, he was reportedly beginning to understand that difficult moments often require strength, patience, and resilience. The lessons he was learning were not coming from official briefings or constitutional documents. They were coming from watching his parents navigate one of the most challenging periods of their lives. Charlotte, meanwhile, became the focus of particular attention as concerns surrounding the family continued to grow. According to those close to royal circles, she displayed a remarkable maturity that impressed many around her. While children often look to adults for reassurance, Charlotte was said to possess an ability to remain composed even when uncertainty lingered. That did not mean she was unaffected. Far from it. But there was growing admiration for the quiet strength she reportedly demonstrated during moments when emotions ran high. For Catherine especially, seeing that resilience in her daughter was believed to be both a source of pride and a powerful reminder of why the family continued fighting to preserve stability. Then there was Louis, the youngest of the three siblings, trying to make sense of a situation far more complicated than anything a child should have to understand. Like many children his age, he was reportedly processing events through questions, observations, and small moments that adults often overlook. The innocence of childhood can be both a blessing and a challenge during difficult times. It protects against some worries while creating confusion about others. Those close to the family suggested that ensuring Louis felt secure became an important part of maintaining a sense of balance within the household. Together, William and Catherine reportedly worked tirelessly to create as much normalcy as possible. Family routines remained important. Everyday moments became valuable. In periods of uncertainty, even the smallest traditions can provide comfort. That determination to preserve a stable home environment reflected a simple but powerful truth. No matter how significant their public roles may be, their greatest responsibility remained their children. For Catherine, that focus never appeared to waver. Even as questions about her own health dominated international headlines, her attention reportedly remained fixed on the well-being of George, Charlotte, and Louis. Those who admired her saw in that commitment the very qualities that had earned her such respect over the years. Strength, compassion, dedication. While the public saw a royal figure facing immense challenges, her children saw a mother determined to protect them from fear wherever possible. There were also reports of meaningful support coming from extended family members. During periods of hardship, relatives often become an essential source of comfort, and many believe the wider royal family quietly stepped forward when needed. Whether through private encouragement, practical support, or simply being present, those connections reportedly helped strengthen the family's ability to endure an emotionally demanding period. As details continued to emerge, public sympathy expanded far beyond Britain. Around the world, people found themselves connecting not to titles or traditions, but to something deeply human. They saw a family facing uncertainty, parents trying to protect their children, children trying to understand circumstances beyond their control. The story resonated because it reflected struggles familiar to countless families everywhere. Behind the grandeur of royalty was a reality that felt heartbreakingly relatable. Yet even as the family drew strength from one another and worked to maintain unity through the storm, forces beyond palace walls were beginning to reshape the story in unexpected ways. Public concern was growing into something larger, and what had started as a private family challenge was about to become a national conversation, unlike anything the palace had anticipated. Yet while the family tried to remain strong, another battle was unfolding beyond palace walls. Within hours of the palace confirmation, a wave of emotion swept across Britain unlike anything seen in recent years. What had begun as whispers behind palace walls had now become a story shared by millions. The moment Buckingham Palace acknowledged Catherine's health setback, the reaction was immediate and overwhelming. Across Britain, concern transformed into a powerful outpouring of support that seemed to grow stronger with every passing hour. For many people, Catherine was not simply a member of the royal family. She had become a symbol of resilience, stability, and quiet dedication. The news felt personal, it felt unsettling, and for countless supporters, it felt impossible to ignore. Messages of encouragement began arriving from every corner of the world. Leaders, public figures, charitable organizations, and ordinary citizens all expressed the same sentiment. They wanted Catherine and her family to know they were not facing this difficult chapter alone. What made the response remarkable was its scale. The concern extended far beyond Britain. Across continents and cultures, people who had followed Catherine's journey for years found themselves united by a shared sense of worry and hope. In a world often divided by politics, geography, and ideology, this story created an unexpected moment of collective compassion. As the day progressed, that compassion became increasingly visible. Supporters gathered near royal residences hoping to express solidarity in whatever way they could. Many simply wanted to show that they cared. Others wished to send encouragement to a family navigating extraordinary uncertainty. The atmosphere was not driven by curiosity or spectacle. It was driven by empathy. People understood that behind every headline stood real individuals facing challenges no family would ever choose. Public figures soon joined the growing chorus of support. Well-known personalities, community leaders, and prominent voices offered messages of encouragement, reinforcing the sense that concern for Catherine had transcended the usual boundaries of royal coverage. The story was no longer being viewed solely through the lens of monarchy. Instead, it was becoming a deeply human narrative about perseverance, family, and the fragile nature of life itself. That shift made the public response even more powerful. Online, the reaction was impossible to miss. Social media platforms quickly filled with messages of hope, prayers, and well wishes. Millions of people shared memories of Catherine's charitable work, her public service, and the calm presence she had brought to royal life for so many years. Some reflected on moments when she had inspired them personally. Others simply offered words of support. Together, those messages formed an extraordinary display of affection that continued expanding long after the initial announcement. At the same time, international media coverage intensified dramatically. News organizations across the globe dedicated significant attention to the developing story. Analysts discussed the implications. Commentators examined every available detail. Experts weighed in on what the announcement might mean for the future. Yet despite the constant coverage, one reality remained unchanged. Reliable answers were still limited. The more attention the story received, the more people seemed to realize how much remained unknown. Inevitably, comparisons emerged to previous moments of royal uncertainty. Historical parallels were drawn. Memories of earlier crises resurfaced. Yet many observers argued that this situation felt different. Catherine occupied a unique place within modern royal life. Her popularity crossed generations. Her reputation was built not on controversy, but on consistency. As a result, concern for her well-being generated an emotional response that felt unusually widespread and deeply sincere. Perhaps the most striking development was the growing sense of unity surrounding her. Political differences faded into the background. social divisions seemed less important. People who rarely agreed on anything found common ground in their support for Catherine and her family. Even palace staff were reportedly overwhelmed by the sheer volume of messages arriving from around the world. The response exceeded expectations and demonstrated just how deeply she had connected with the public over the years. Yet for all the compassion, encouragement, and solidarity pouring in from every direction, one question continued to linger over the entire story. Support could provide comfort. Public affection could offer strength, but neither could provide the answer that everyone desperately wanted. As the days passed and concern continued to grow, attention began shifting toward the uncertainty still hanging over the future, and the mystery at the heart of the crisis remained as powerful as ever. As support continued to grow, attention turned toward a question nobody could answer with certainty. The palace had confirmed the crisis. What it could not confirm was what the future would look like. In many ways, the official announcement answered the easiest question. It confirmed that Catherine was facing a serious challenge. What it could not answer was the question that immediately followed. What happens now? That uncertainty quickly became the dominant theme surrounding the story. Every conversation seemed to return to the same unknown. The palace had acknowledged the reality of the situation, but it could not provide a timetable, a prediction, or a guarantee. For supporters hoping for certainty, that absence of answers proved both understandable and deeply frustrating. At the center of the uncertainty was Catherine's recovery timeline. People naturally wanted to know when she might return to public life, when she might resume her duties, and when the concerns surrounding her health would finally begin to fade. Yet those closest to the situation appeared unwilling to make promises they could not keep. Recovery rarely follows a predictable path. Challenges can change unexpectedly. Progress can arrive in stages. For that reason, official communications remained cautious, emphasizing patience rather than predictions. While some interpreted that caution as secrecy, others recognized it as a reflection of how uncertain the circumstances truly were. The questions extended far beyond health alone. Catherine had become one of the most visible and respected figures within the monarchy. Her responsibilities touched numerous charitable organizations, public initiatives, and royal engagements. As weeks turned into months, observers increasingly wondered how those duties would be managed moving forward. Would certain commitments be postponed indefinitely? Would others be reassigned? Could the institution adapt without placing additional strain on the family already carrying so much emotional weight? No clear answers emerged, only a growing recognition that difficult decisions were being considered behind closed doors. As a result, preparations reportedly began for multiple possibilities. The monarchy has survived countless challenges throughout its history because it plans for uncertainty rather than assuming the best outcome. According to those familiar with royal operations, senior figures were quietly reviewing different scenarios while maintaining public stability. This was not necessarily a sign of alarm. It was a reflection of responsibility. Institutions endure by preparing for situations they hope never occur. And in this case, preparation became essential because so much remained unknown. Meanwhile, William's role continued to expand. The Prince of Wales was already one of the most important figures within the royal family. But the circumstances surrounding Catherine naturally increased the demands placed upon him. Public responsibilities that once might have been shared now increasingly fell to his shoulders. Engagements carried greater significance. Speeches attracted heightened attention. Every appearance reinforced the reality that he was becoming not only the future king, but also the central figure holding the institution steady during a period of uncertainty. He was not alone in that effort. Reports suggested senior royals were stepping forward wherever possible, ensuring that important responsibilities continued despite the challenges facing the family. Their support reflected an understanding that the monarchy functions as a collective institution. During moments of difficulty, its members are often required to shoulder additional burdens. Behind the scenes, coordination became more important than ever, as the family worked to balance public expectations with private realities. Yet perhaps the most difficult challenge involved managing the competing demands of transparency and privacy. The public wanted information. Supporters wanted reassurance. Many believed they deserved greater clarity about Catherine's condition and future. At the same time, the family sought to protect deeply personal matters from becoming subjects of endless public debate. It was a delicate balance with no perfect solution. Every statement was scrutinized. Every silence was analyzed. Every effort to maintain privacy sometimes created even greater curiosity. Predictably, speculation continued to grow despite official restraint. The less information available, the more theories emerged. Commentators offered interpretations. Rumors spread rapidly. Assumptions were presented as possibilities. Yet amid the noise, one fact remained undeniable. The monarchy had entered one of its most delicate periods in recent memory. Not because of scandal or controversy, but because of uncertainty. The future could not yet be defined, and that reality left millions waiting anxiously for news that had not yet arrived. Still, uncertainty has a way of revealing truths that certainty often hides. As Britain continued watching, hoping, and waiting, something remarkable began to emerge from the confusion. Beyond the headlines, beyond the speculation, and beyond the unanswered questions, a deeper understanding was taking shape. It was a realization about resilience, family, and the strength required to endure difficult chapters when no clear ending is in sight. And as Britain waited for answers, one final truth emerged from the uncertainty. In moments of crisis, royal titles matter less than character. And this chapter revealed exactly why Catherine remains one of the most admired figures in modern royal history. As the uncertainty continued and the future remained unwritten, one truth became increasingly impossible to ignore. The story that had captured global attention was no longer simply about medical updates, royal schedules, or palace statements. It had become a story about resilience. It had become a story about how people respond when life suddenly changes course and forces them to confront challenges they never expected. At the center of that story stood Catherine, whose determination throughout the ordeal left a lasting impression on millions who had followed every development with concern and hope. What made her response so powerful was not the absence of difficulty. It was the way she faced it. Throughout the crisis, there were moments of uncertainty, moments of fear, and moments when the road ahead seemed impossible to predict. Yet through it all, Catherine remained a symbol of quiet strength. While the world searched desperately for answers, she focused on the things that mattered most. Family, recovery, perseverance. Those priorities spoke louder than any public statement ever could. They revealed a woman determined not to be defined by adversity, but by the courage she showed while confronting it. Standing beside her every step of the way was William. If this chapter tested Catherine's resilience, it also tested his commitment. The Prince of Wales found himself balancing extraordinary responsibilities while remaining a devoted husband and father. The pressures were immense. Public expectations never disappeared. Royal duties continued. Yet his focus remained remarkably clear. Time and again, he demonstrated that loyalty is not measured during easy moments. It is revealed during the hardest ones. His unwavering support became one of the defining themes of the entire story. The strength shown by their children also left a profound impression. George, Charlotte, and Louis became quiet reminders that resilience often emerges in unexpected ways. Though still young, each faced uncertainty with the support of a family determined to protect them. Their experiences revealed the deeply human reality hidden behind royal titles. They were not simply future heirs or members of a famous institution. They were children navigating a difficult chapter alongside the people they loved most. As the family endured these challenges together, public affection for Catherine reached extraordinary levels. The support that poured in from around the world reflected more than admiration. It reflected connection. People saw in her struggles something familiar. They recognized the fear that accompanies uncertainty. They understood the strength required to keep moving forward when answers remain elusive. In many ways, the crisis transformed Catherine from a respected royal figure into something even more significant. She became a source of inspiration for countless individuals facing their own battles. The story also offered powerful lessons about duty, family, and perseverance. It demonstrated that true leadership is not always displayed through grand speeches or historic moments. Sometimes it appears in quieter forms: a parent protecting their children, a spouse standing beside a loved one, a family refusing to lose hope despite uncertainty. Those moments carried a weight that resonated far beyond palace walls. At the same time, the monarchy itself adapted to a difficult period. Responsibilities shifted, plans evolved, new challenges emerged. Yet the institution continued moving forward, proving once again that its greatest strength often lies in its ability to endure periods of change. The journey was far from easy, but it highlighted a remarkable capacity for resilience within both the family and the institution they serve. Most importantly, hope gradually became stronger than fear. The unanswered questions remained. The uncertainty did not vanish overnight. Yet as months passed, many supporters found themselves focusing less on what might go wrong and more on the strength that had already been demonstrated. The crisis revealed an enduring bond between Catherine and the public, one built not on perfection but on authenticity, perseverance, and shared humanity. For now, the questions remain. The uncertainty remains. But one thing is clear, this crisis has reminded the world that behind the crowns, titles, and traditions are a family fighting together through one of the most difficult moments of their lives. And the next chapter may be the most important one yet. Thanks for watching. Please don't forget to like and subscribe, and we will see you in next one.